Most people believe royal visits to the military are quiet, ceremonial affairs. A handshake with soldiers, a quick inspection, a photograph for the press. But sometimes, a royal visit sounds very different. A vast training ground stretches across the countryside. The wind moves slowly over open fields. Camouflage vehicles sit in careful formation. Soldiers stand at attention, waiting for a signal. In the distance, a massive artillery gun slowly pivots into position. For a moment, the field is silent. Then, everything changes. A thunderous blast shatters the calm. The explosion rips through the air with overwhelming force. The ground trembles beneath boots and steel. A shockwave rolls across the landscape as thick smoke erupts from the barrel and drifts into the sky. Standing nearby, calmly observing the demonstration, is King Charles III. This is not a parade. This is not ceremonial pageantry. This is the controlled power of modern artillery, demonstrated by the British Army. Soldiers move quickly around the vehicle, reloading with precise coordination. Commands are exchanged. Equipment locks into place. Seconds later, the gun fires again. Another deafening boom echoes across the training field, sending a new cloud of smoke rolling across the horizon. To most observers, this might look like a routine military demonstration. But to defense analysts and historians, moments like this often carry deeper meaning. Because artillery has quietly returned to the center of modern warfare. Across the world, nations are investing heavily in long-range firepower capable of striking targets far beyond the visible battlefield. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Why would the British monarch choose this moment, this weapon system, to witness so closely? Royal visits to the armed forces are nothing new. But standing beside the thunder of a live artillery demonstration is far less common. And as the smoke clears over the training ground, the moment begins to feel like more than a simple visit. It feels like a signal. The question is, a signal to whom? The smoke from the blast slowly fades across the field. Soldiers move quickly, resetting the weapon with practiced precision. At first glance, the machine looks like just another armored vehicle. But the records show something different. The weapon being demonstrated is believed to be the AS-90 self-propelled artillery, one of the most powerful artillery systems operated by the British Army. On paper, its capabilities are staggering. Each shell weighs more than 40 kilograms. When fired, it can travel more than 24 kilometers, far beyond what the eye can see. Guided by advanced targeting systems, these shells strike distant targets with devastating accuracy. Within seconds, the crew loads another round. A command is shouted. And once again, the gun erupts with a thunderous roar. Military historians often refer to artillery as the king of the battlefield. And modern conflicts have proven that statement again and again. But that's where the story takes a darker turn. Because this demonstration isn't happening in isolation. Across Europe and beyond, military planners have been quietly rethinking the future of warfare. Advanced drones, cyber warfare, and satellite intelligence dominate headlines, but on the battlefield itself, artillery remains one of the most decisive forces. Which brings investigators back to the moment on that training field. Why was King Charles III personally observing such a demonstration? Royal visits to military units are common. They boost morale and reinforce the historic bond between the crown and the armed forces. But live artillery demonstrations, particularly ones this powerful, are rarely part of those visits. And that detail matters. Because in Britain's constitutional system, the monarch holds a symbolic yet powerful role as head of the armed forces. While operational command belongs to military leaders and elected officials, the monarch's presence still carries enormous national symbolism. Which means every public military appearance is carefully planned. Every image, every clip, every photograph is recorded and shared with the world. But investigators noticed something else about this moment. Instead of standing far from the demonstration, the king appeared intensely focused on the process itself, watching the crew coordinate, observing how the artillery system operated, and following each stage of the firing sequence. It wasn't just the explosion that drew attention. It was the level of attention being given to it. And the deeper analysts looked into the footage, the more one question kept surfacing. If this was simply a ceremonial visit, why showcase one of Britain's most powerful battlefield weapons? Because in geopolitics, displays of military capability are rarely accidental. Sometimes, they are messages. Messages meant to be heard far beyond the sound of the blast. By now, the pattern is becoming clear. This wasn't just a casual royal visit. It was a carefully organized demonstration. And that realization leads investigators to the next question: how rare is this kind of event? The answer is, very rare. Royal appearances with military units usually focus on ceremony, parades, medal presentations, or troop inspections. Moments that celebrate tradition rather than raw firepower. But this visit was different. Here, the focus was unmistakably on the weapon itself. Another round is loaded into the artillery system. The crew works in near-perfect synchronization. Within seconds, the massive barrel adjusts its angle toward a distant target zone. Then the order is given. A violent flash erupts from the barrel. The blast thunders across the countryside once again. But that's where the story takes a deeper turn. Because the artillery platform demonstrated during this visit represents only one piece of a much larger transformation taking place within the British Army. Across Europe, military planners have begun revisiting something many strategists once believed was becoming obsolete. Heavy artillery. In modern warfare, speed and precision are everything. Armies now rely on systems capable of firing rapidly and relocating before enemy radars can even pinpoint their position. One of the systems now entering service reflects this new doctrine, the Archer artillery system. Unlike older platforms, this system can fire multiple shells in rapid succession and move away in less than a minute. Military strategists call this tactic, shoot and scoot. Fire, move, disappear. It allows artillery units to strike targets and escape retaliation before enemy forces can respond. Which suddenly casts the demonstration in a very different light. Because if the event was meant to showcase Britain's evolving artillery capabilities, then the audience may not have been limited to those standing on the training ground. Military demonstrations often serve two purposes. The first is internal, boosting morale and confidence among troops and the public. But the second purpose is external. Strategic signaling. Throughout history, nations have used carefully staged demonstrations of military power to communicate strength, readiness, and technological capability to the outside world. And when King Charles III appears alongside one of the most powerful battlefield systems in the country's arsenal, the symbolism becomes impossible to ignore. The message is subtle, but powerful. Britain remains prepared. Prepared technologically. Prepared strategically. Prepared militarily. Yet one detail about the demonstration continues to puzzle analysts. Because the deeper investigators examined the footage, the more one question kept resurfacing. If this moment was meant to signal strength, who exactly was meant to receive the message? But not everyone believes this demonstration was meant as a geopolitical signal. Some analysts offer a very different explanation. Perhaps the moment has been interpreted far too dramatically. After all, royal visits to military bases have always served an important purpose, boosting morale, honoring service members, and highlighting the work of the armed forces. From this perspective, the appearance of King Charles III at the training ground could simply reflect a long-standing tradition, showing support for the British Army and the men and women who serve within it. The artillery demonstration may have been chosen not as a signal to the world, but as a demonstration of technological progress and professionalism. A moment designed to inspire confidence. A reminder that Britain's armed forces remain capable and prepared. But even this explanation leaves questions behind. Because when analysts reviewed the footage, again, certain details still stood out. The scale of the demonstration. The focus on high-powered artillery. The careful staging of cameras and observers. And most of all, the symbolic weight of the monarch's presence beside the thunder of one of Britain's most formidable battlefield systems. History shows that nations rarely showcase military power without purpose. Sometimes the purpose is simple. Sometimes, it is far more complex. As the final echoes of the artillery blast fade across the countryside, the scene leaves us with one lingering thought. The truth may never be fully known. But now, the question passes to you. What do you think was really happening during this moment? Was it a routine demonstration, a strategic signal, or something in between? Share your theory in the comments below. Because sometimes the most revealing answers come from the questions we dare to ask.